Let me see if I could text her later on.
Start video. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
There she is. There she is.
All right, can you see me now? I know this is set up, so I got to get the right chair. All right, now can you see me better?
Yeah, good to see you.
Now it's good?
Yeah.
Okay, who are we waiting on? Trustee Andrea?
Yes, I don't see her on.
Tim? What about Tim and Tom?
Tom Hood is on, but he's muted.
What about Tim?
That's all I see.
Our
No Tim
auditors?
right now.
No auditors?
There's Jason. Jason, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. You're one of
Yes.
the auditors, right? From Baker
I am.
Tilly?
Yep, you got it.
Jason,
Tom Hood is
it's
on.
Jason?
Can you hear me now?
We can,
Yeah.
Tom.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
The auditors
So
are from
you
Baker
need-
Tilly. Tom?
Tom's on.
Okay, so the auditors are from Baker and Tilly, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
All right, is Director Tim Hicks on from Finance?
I don't see him yet.
Okay, Tom, you're on, you're not in the office, you're at home, correct?
I'm at home, correct.
All right, I'm here at obviously at the Village Hall, so, well, let's, time do we got? Tim's gonna be on, correct?
Yes, yes.
All right, let's give everybody about what about Trustee Andrea? Is she on yet?
He's not on yet.
All right, let's
We'll
give,
give
let's give,
about
is it all right, we
3
give a few minutes? Pull
3
this all
minutes?
together?
Yeah.
Trustee,
All
would you like me to stop, would you like me to stop the live stream?
What do you suggest?
We can stop it and restart it. That's fine.
Is that all right until we see where they're at?
Sure, not a problem.
Good evening, everyone. You could go ahead and start the meeting when they get in and get on.
You want to do that?
We can. We got 2 here. We can do that.
Yeah, we got me and John, so we can go ahead and start the meeting, and then we have the auditor here. We have Tom here to do the intro in case Tim doesn't hop on. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
All right. You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I can go, we're live. I can go ahead.
You can.
Okay. Good evening, residents. This is the meeting for the Village of Broadview Finance Committee meeting for February 10th, 2021 via Zoom at 7:33. I'm going to call the meeting to order. At this time, we are going to do a roll call. This is Trustee Judy Abraham, Finance Chairwoman.
Trustee John Terry.
Tom Hood, the Budget Director.
Jason, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Jason Coyle, Baker Tilly.
Since everybody's here, at this time, I'd like to take if you want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance at this time.
Okay.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, of
The United States of America.
to the republic, for which
it stands.
one nation,
One nation,
under God,
under
indivisible,
God,
liberty
indivisible,
and justice for all.
liberty, justice for all.
Thank you. Could we also take a moment of silence or reflection, please? Okay, thank you very much. The Finance Committee meeting is here on item number 2 to discuss the 2019 audit. I would ask if anybody has any questions or comments, please hold them to the end and enter them into our chat box. We will address them at the end of the meeting. Thank you. Mr. Tom Hood, the budget officer, do you want to introduce what we're going to be doing next with Tim?
Tim just joined us.
Oh, Tim
I'm
Hicks.
here.
Okay, go ahead, introduce yourself, Tim.
Hello, everyone. I'm Timothy Hicks, the Finance Director.
Okay,
How you doing, Tim?
okay. All right. So who's going to be doing the intros, Tim or Tom, for our audit, to discuss the 2019 audit report?
I'll go ahead and do the intro.
Thank you.
We have, Jason from Baker Tilly. He's a partner there. He'll take us through the fiscal 19 audit. We have Director Hood, who's the budget director, on as well, along with the Finance Committee trustees. We have Trustee Tierney, Trustee Abraham, who's the chair of the Finance Committee. And who else is on?
Looks like the clerk is on and the mayor.
Clerk McGreer, in terms of the Finance Committee members, is it just yourself and?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then
Yes,
we-
just the two trustees.
Okay. The Honorable Mayor Katrina Thompson, and the village clerk, Clerk McGreer, on as well. We'll jump right into it and pass it on to Jason to take us through the fiscal 19 audit results.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. Good to be with you, at least virtually here. If it's all right with you, I'm going to share my screen and I pulled some pages from your financial statements that I'll pull up and just kind of walk those through. I have a relatively brief presentation. Obviously, if you have questions from the Finance Committee members as I go, feel free to just ask them as I go too.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Well, let me do that. Excuse me 1 second. Trustee Tierney, do you want to wait or do you want to ask questions during his presentation? What's your feel?
I think, well, I think let them make their presentation. We can ask questions afterwards.
Perfect. We could be taking notes. That's good. All right.
Can you guys see my screen just for clarification?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Assistant President. Yep. Independent Auditors Report.
Very good. Yeah, I have 3 screens, so it looks like I got the right one. So that's great. Okay, so this is obviously the review of your FY19 financial statements. So that's 4/30/19, what we're going to be going over. What I have up on the screen now is our audit opinion. So it's a couple pages from our firm included within your financial statements. And this is, basically this is what you pay us for, is to provide this opinion on your financial statements. What this opinion says is that somebody can pick up your financial statements and rely on the information within the financial statements in all material respects as they evaluate the financial health of the village. So it's an unqualified or unmodified opinion. The only kind of difference in here versus some other opinions is we don't audit the police pension fund. So many times we audit all the pension funds. In this case, we don't. So we make it known in here that we didn't audit the police pension fund. Another firm audited the police pension fund, and we're including their opinion, if you will, inside of ours. So that's the only kind of change from your opinion here, but that's similar to what it is in prior years. So again, unmodified or unqualified opinion. After our opinion, we kind of get into the financial statements, and the first section is the management's discussion and analysis, or MD&A for short. I always recommend to all governing body members, but particularly those within the Finance Committee, if you don't look at anything else within the financial statements, I recommend you read through the management's discussion and analysis. It does a great job. Obviously, as the name implies, management helps put this together with us, but it does a great job of just kind of summarizing what went on during the year, compares some things to the prior year, and just it's kind of a high level overview. One of the great things about it is there's some pie charts in here that easily depict where your revenue is coming from. In this case, you'll see 40% comes from property taxes, so less than 50% of your funding obviously is coming from property taxes. And then there's also a pie chart in here that shows where's your money going. 70% of your funding is going to public safety. So a very large percentage, obviously. It's just a very easy way to depict, what's going on financially. After the management's discussion and analysis, we get into the meat or the heart of the financial statements. The first statement is the statement of net position, which is what I'm showing here. So there's two columns in here, your governmental activities and your business type activities. So your business type activities is basically your water fund, and your governmental activities are all your other funds of the village. What's kind of unique about this statement and from what you're used to seeing on a monthly basis is we incorporate capital assets in here. So all of the infrastructure that the village owns, land, buildings, vehicles, equipment, that's incorporated in here as an asset. Also incorporated on here are all your long-term liabilities that you normally don't see on a day-to-day basis. So these would be your bonds outstanding, for example, along with your net pension liabilities. Again, another number we don't talk about likely except during the audit is your net pension liabilities. Obviously, you have three pension funds. You have your police pension fund, your firefighter pension fund, and IMRF, which is basically everybody else, is incorporated into those three pension funds. And then we have an other post-employment benefit liability on here as well. Collectively, those pension liabilities, net pension liabilities, is $45.5 million. Now, you're contributing to all of these pensions on a regular basis, but this is the actuarially calculated liability for all of those pension funds. And I point out that number, 45.5 million, primarily to show that if that wasn't included on here, you wouldn't be in a negative unrestricted net position, because that 45.5 million liability obviously exceeds, that negative, $37 million in the general governmental activities. So it's a large number, and that's what's really driving the negative net position number there. After this, one of the other statements I always like to go over is your income statement of your governmental activities. So this is getting closer to what you're used to seeing on a monthly basis in your reports. So your general fund is your primary operating fund, also known as your corporate fund. And then we have your Roosevelt Road TIF fund and your capital projects fund presented here, along with all the other smaller funds combined down into one column called non-major governmental activities. So that's the 4 columns here. So you'll see this first column, your general or corporate fund, saw a reduction in fund balance for the year by $1.3 million. The next column is your Roosevelt Road TIF fund. You'll see that had a slight increase in fund balance for the year. Capital Project Fund had quite a bit of activity in it and saw a slight increase. Obviously, you issued bonds during this fiscal year, largely to pay for the Village Hall improvements and the 911 center build out. So, that's incorporated in here. And then all other funds increased $1.5 million. So collectively, overall, you'll see your funds increased $841,000 for the fiscal year end. The next statement I want to go over is your business type activities, which is your water sewer fund. The unique thing about the business type activities is generally they're meant to be self-supporting. They're not supported by property taxes or any type of other funding other than charges for services, generally speaking. And so, what I always like to see is, well, are they self-supporting? Is the revenue that's being generated supporting the operations of that activity? In this case, this year, that didn't happen. You did have an operating loss of $430,000, in part because the water costs increased during the year. I think you also had some more maintenance and repair costs this year than you had in typical years. I know in the previous fiscal year, you had an operating profit. So just at this point in time, given some of the increase in costs, you had an operating loss. But still, obviously, at the end of the year, had a healthy net position of $10.7 million. The next statement is the pension trust fund. So this is your police and fire trust funds, pension funds combined into one column here. Obviously, you can see you contributed a fair amount of money during the year. $2.8 million was collectively contributed to those two pension funds, along with some plan member employee. So that's basically your employee contributions as your plan member contributions. And then you saw a net investment income of $3 million. So that meant your investment earnings earned you $3 million for the year. Obviously, the market has fluctuated quite significantly since the end of fiscal year 19 and 4/30/19, but as of that time, you had some nice returns here. Overall, your revenues in both of these funds increased or exceeded your costs. So the position increased by $1.7 million for both of those pension funds collectively. And then that's really all I was going to go over in the financial statements. After this is the notes to the financial statements, which has a lot of detail regarding your capital assets and your debt and your total pension liabilities and things like that. And then after the notes is a lot of budget to actual comparison information, which is great detail that you can see, you know, what did we budget for at the beginning of the year for all the funds, and what did the fund actually produce compared to what you had projected at the beginning of the year. Also at the conclusion of, so that's all I was going to talk about related to the financial statements. But also at the conclusion of the audit, we include a communication to the board and yourself, the finance committee in this case, along with management regarding any recommendations for improvements in internal controls. I don't have that to bring up on my screen here, but you know, we didn't see many changes to the recommendations from what we had communicated in the prior year, so I'm not going to go over through each one of them unless you'd like me to. My biggest recommendation, though, is related to bank reconciliations, and I know we've talked to Tom and Tim about this. You know, we'd love to see those being completed more timely. They would help us as the auditor, in large part because we'd be able to accelerate the timing of the audit, and it just makes sure that you know, all your expenditures are being posted to your general ledger timely, and the revenues are being posted timely as well. Just that would help you have even more accurate information that's being produced, you know, to yourselves on a monthly basis as well. So, you know, from an operational standpoint, you know, I think that's really the biggest thing that I would recommend working on, because again, it would help us accelerate the timing of the audit in future years. So. And we are, just as an aside, already beginning the FY20 audit. Pretty much as soon as this one wrapped up, we rolled into that, and I think we have a meeting even tomorrow night with Tom and Tim to work on that. So that's really the end of my prepared remarks, but I'm happy to entertain any questions anyone might have.
Well, thank you, Jason, for that excellent report. Trustee Tierney, do you have any questions specifically regarding the report for Jason?
Yes, I do. You said you didn't get the pension fund for the police department done by a different company. Are we able to get a copy? Will that be put into your report as well later on? Or is it a separate report? Yeah.
Well, you break it up there a little bit, so I didn't catch quite all of that. I'm not sure if it's just me
Okay.
or.
No,
The pension regarding the police department.
Yeah.
You didn't get the numbers because you didn't do the audit, or do you have the numbers that can be included in that audit or our report, financial report?
Yeah, no, we did obtain the audit report of the police pension fund, and all that information is incorporated within
Okay.
your village financial statements. But they do also have their own separate audit report that you could obtain if you want to. But again, all of that information is incorporated within our your whole village financial statement. So in the back, as I mentioned, there's budget to actual comparison schedules. There's also schedules back there just for the police and fire pension fund. So you can
Okay.
see pretty much most of the same detail that you'd see in the police pension individual audit it would be in this financial statement. So, yes.
Okay.
I just mentioned
I
that.
did have another one.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. The bank recognition, we have to pay those off. I know they got to be paid off. We have to do a better job of that. Outside of that, is there anything else that's glaring that we need to take a look at?
Financially speaking,
Yeah.
or
Do we seem pretty good?
well, I mean, the pension funds, as you mentioned, are probably the biggest thing that weigh down most communities, right? You know, they're such a large cost, and unfortunately, they're a huge just news report, if you will, in Illinois, because every pension fund in Illinois, for the most part, is not well funded, unfortunately, and so those costs continue to escalate on a regular basis as well. So I think that's probably your biggest
Okay.
liability, if you will, that is probably difficult to fund in a lot of ways, because usually the required contributions to the pension funds are increasing faster than your CPI and your other revenues are increasing. And so you end up having to pull away money, if you will, from other places in order to contribute to your pension funds. And so that greatly impacts your budgeting process every year.
Okay, that's all I had for now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so thank you, trustee Tierney, for your questions and comments about that. I do have two things. One, Jason, so overall health of the village compared to, the last few years, how are we, progressing, strength-wise, village-wise?
Well, I think the biggest thing I noticed this year was that your corporate fund, your general fund saw a reduction in fund balance. I think some of that's due to the timing of some of your property taxes, but that's slightly concerning, if you will. And I don't know how FY20 and now that you're into FY21, how that's panning out and how that's progressing. But in the prior year at FY18, your general fund or your corporate fund saw an increase in fund balance. And so, this was a bit of a reversal to see a decrease. So, Tim or Tom might have better information as to, maybe why that occurred this year. I think, again, some of it was related to a timing of some of the property taxes coming in, but your expenditures also exceeded your budget a little bit as well. So I think there's various things that are going on there that, you want to watch out for.
Okay, and that's your recommendation. So as well as you see it, we're in a strong standing then, the village fund finances?
Yeah, you still have a positive fund balance in your, the biggest fund I always look at is your general or your corporate fund, because it's your primary operating fund, right? And you have $2.9 million as of the end of fiscal 19 in that fund, which is still, that's enough money for a rainy day, if you will, but it did go down from 4.2 in the prior year. So, evaluating, is that trend continuing in future years? Is there corrections that need to be made from expense wise, or are there ways to generate additional income? Obviously with COVID now, jump forward a little bit from this time, all communities are seeing sales taxes going down and other taxes like that going down. So, again, that's going to have an impact on you here in fiscal year 21 that you're seeing, I'm sure.
Okay. All right. You did bring up a thing that you did make a recommendation about the bank reconciliations, about you guys want them in a more timely manner. So I guess, I don't know if that question should be put to either Director Hicks or our budget officer, Mr. Hood. What can they do to, so that you guys can receive it in a timely manner, right? So that you guys can get ahead and do the actual numbers. Is that something that
Madam
Tim or
Chair,
Tom want to comment on?
Real quick, Madam Chair, I just wanted to break in real quick and thank all of the public body and residents that are viewing tonight, and ask that if you have questions or comments, please utilize the question and answer box. We will be monitoring, and the chair will be recognizing you at the proper time. Madam Chair, I apologize. I yield back. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clerk, for bringing that up about having our, I mentioned it earlier when we first called the meeting to order about putting any questions or comments in the chat box, and we would hold it off to the end. So yes, if you have any, please let me know at the end. Is that fine with you, Mr. Clerk?
Yeah, I'll monitor the question and answer box. They can actually type their question or comment in. I will get to you, and you can recognize at your convenience. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, we'll do it at the end, and then you can just go ahead and go through the list, what you have. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so in terms of the question,
All right, Tim, so you heard my question about he brought up about bank reconciliations was recommended. What's your thoughts on that? What do we need to do?
so we've, and we being the finance team, myself, Director Hood, Leticia, the village administrator, and also, other staff members. What we're doing is trying to, identify revenues in a more timely fashion to be able to post those so that we don't have as many reconciling as we had when in previous periods in fiscal years, and being able to, Director Hood has done a tremendous job of reconciling all of the bank accounts. There's very many and trying to do that in a more timely fashion as well. One of the things that we're going to do going forward is with our banking relationships and also with our banking accounts is to segregate out more of the activity so that there's not, right now we have, the corporate account or the concentration account, and we have the majority, we have all of the activity going into that one account. And so what we're looking to do going forward is to separate out separate activities, specifically for certain types of revenues, like for our grants or certain types of expenditures for payroll or for our accounts payable, so that will make it much easier for each individual bank account to be reconciled a lot easier, and then that'll make it easier for staff members to actually reconcile some of the accounts as well. And then Director Hood and myself can review those bank reconciliations as opposed to being heavily involved in having to complete the reconciliations as well as post all the entries and those other things. So, we've taken Baker Tilly's recommendations into consideration, and we've been making, minor, changes and process and procedures that we can, and then we look to continue to make that progress as we go from fiscal 19 to the fiscal 20s audit, and then in a few months here we'll be looking to do fiscal 21.
Does our budget officer, Tom Hood, have any comment to make about that as well, as far as improvements and adjustments that we need to make?
Right, and it's a work in progress today. There are quite a few new things that have been added to the mix over the last 18 to 24 months, and just figuring out how they play into it has been a challenge. But yes, we're finding ways to match the money up with the receipt of the money and the actual transaction that happened, because like credit cards, there's a delay period. Electronic deposits, there's a delay period. Trying to come up with a daily way to do that instead of trying to go back and do it after the fact. So if we get it's like I said, it's a work in process, but we're working on it now.
Okay. So Trustee Tierney, did you have any questions or comments about that? When I was asking about the bank reconciliations, that was a recommendation by from Jason from Baker Tilly to make improvements.
Yeah, no, I agree. They've got to be addressed, and I'm sure that Director Hicks and Director Hood are working on that. With everything that's been going on this last year, I mean, everything's kind of up for grabs right now until it settles down. We can figure out what's going on, get that straightened out. But I believe the village is doing okay right now, so I feel good about that.
Okay. And then Director Hicks, did you have any other comments regarding, from Baker Tilly, from the report and recommendations? Anything you want to address on that as well?
No other comments.
Okay. Budget Officer Hood, anything? You want to make any comments regarding?
Sure. And I'm going to ask Jason to kind of, I could answer, but I'm going to ask Jason to answer it, to kind of explain the difference between our cash balance reporting and our financials. Because as you can see, the financials are quite a bit different than our monthly reporting that's based on actual cash flows. And the one thing that really stood out to me is when you look at the cash that we took in fiscal 19, it was about 15.1 million, but what's recognized in the financials is 14.4, a difference of over $700,000. That difference is created in timing in the accruals. So in certain years, if we're owed money, it shows up in the financials as a positive. The next year, we might actually get collected. When we collect the money, it's subtracted out. So there's would you refer to it as a timing issue, Jason?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, Tom, is, you report your monthly financial statements, as do just about every municipality and every government I work with, on a cash basis, right? Cash in is revenue, cash out is an expenditure. You report in your audit report under GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, which is, what you're basically required to report under, is what bonding agencies and people who are buying your bonds want to see you report under. They'd rather you see you report under GAAP versus cash basis, which is what you operate on. So yeah, the difference is timing, right? So cash in is revenue, cash out is an expense. Under GAAP, if somebody owes you money as of the end of the year, even if you hadn't received it, we're going to record that as revenue during the year that it was owed to you, and then show a receivable on your balance sheet as the receivable being somebody owes you money. Conversely, if you owe somebody else money, which happens on a regular basis, that, you'll get a bill in one fiscal year, you didn't pay it till the next fiscal year. We show that as an expense or an expenditure in the year that it was incurred rather than the year it was paid. So there's timing differences between cash basis and GAAP basis. GAAP is there to take away the timing differences, if you will, because under cash basis, for an external financial purposes, you could manipulate your financial statements a little bit. You could wait to cut checks until after the end of the year, for example, or wait to deposit something. And so the GAAP basis takes that ability away and tries to show things evenly, if you will, based upon when the money was owed to you or when you owed money to other people. So yeah, to Tom's point, there could be some significant swings between both your revenues and expenses from what you're seeing on a monthly basis that's reported on a cash basis versus what's in the financial statements on a GAAP basis. Yeah, but over time, obviously, it's all going to equal out because it's just a timing difference. So over multiple years, it's all going to be the same, but at any one time, you could have some timing differences.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, I do real quick about the pension contributions. We're all good. Does anybody want to comment on that as well? I just want to make sure our police and fire pension, obviously, everything's in good shape.
Is that directed to me? Okay.
Whoever wants to answer that. I know it's always recommended that our pension contributions, definitely want to make sure that we're taking care of the individuals that serve our village. So if you just want to, somebody wants to do a quick recap and just, that we're in good standing, everything is well.
Yeah. So the pensions, the actuaries for the pension, they come up with what is called the ARC, which is the annual required contribution amount. And we are contributing that amount over the last, required. But that being said, both pensions are not are underfunded in terms of their funding percentages. And it would take, additional amounts to be contributed to get them from, I believe, they were in maybe 50, 60% funded. And so, so it would take an additional amount up and above what the ARC is to get that funding levels up, the funding ratios, out of the 50s and 60s and move it, much higher. So that's really where we are. And I think, like Jason mentioned before, it's the largest liability for the village. And so, unless something, significantly happens in terms of a stream of revenue that we could tap into to specifically, dedicate or fund an additional amount, we probably still would be in this position where we're, 50, 60, percent funded, unless we just have a banger year in the stock market and where, some of those returns make up for that. But, that's kind of far-fetched and something that you couldn't rely on from year to year to,
Okay.
But we are making, and we budget every year, whatever the annual required contribution amount is. And that's the amount that we levy for. And so that's the amount that is contributed to both or all three pensions, IMRF, police and fire.
Okay, awesome. Trustee Tierney, any questions about that? About the contributions?
No more.
No more. And then the other account, I believe Jason brought it up, was, we have the water fund. It's different than our regular funds, right? He said he called it a business account. Was that what it was? He mentioned something.
Business type activity is what it's called, because it's more like a business, if you will, because you're charging for services. Yep.
Okay, everything's in good standing with the water fund, and then you said all the other funds were all in good shape as well under the government accounts, correct?
Yeah, my comment on the water fund was that it had a slight loss for this year. Last year it had a profit. This year it had a slight loss. So, it's just something you want to continue to watch, because you want to make sure that over time your charges for services are funding that fund on a regular basis.
Right.
In any one year you could have some losses if you have some more repairs than you expected and things like that. But, as water rates increase, you're buying the water. As the water you're paying for increases, you need to make sure the charges that you're charging out are encompassing that, along with any other infrastructure needs that fund might have. So,
okay. Any questions?
I'd like to add a little to that. Judy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Director Hood or Director Hicks, do you guys have any comments?
One thing I wanted to point out about the water fund was in that year, there was budgeted a large expenditure. We changed out all of the water meters in town. I believe overall the budget was 1.1 million. It ended up falling into 2 years. Part of it got picked up at the end of fiscal 19. The rest of it got picked up in fiscal 20. So we knew that we were spending some of our fund balance, money that we've made in the past, to upgrade the entire village's water meters. So it was actually a planned expenditure. It really wasn't a shortage of revenues or extra normal operating costs. It was a one-time large project to replace water meters that were 25 to 40 years old, and hopefully these water meters will be more accurate, which means better readings, which means we will get paid for all the water we're selling. So it was a planned expenditure, and we expected it to go down.
Okay.
And you'll see the other part of that money spent in fiscal 20.
Okay. I just want to, I just like to, make sure that our public, our residents, know what has happened. Does that make sense, gentlemen?
Yeah, and actually with the water fund, what we must remember as well is that what we did was had a plan to try to capture a lot of the water rate increases from the city of Chicago that the previous administration failed to, keep pace with in terms of the water rates. And so that was phased in as well. So we should see it leveling off, because we took that into consideration as well. So, in addition to, the additional revenue that we anticipate having from, having, modern water meters that will give us better water reads and things of that sort. So that, and that's a part of the strategic plan and overall plan for the water fund as well, with, shoring up all of the things that we need to shore up in that fund so that we could move ahead with the IEPA loan, which would tackle and address infrastructure needs. And so one of the things that was necessary and that was needed was to do some of these water rates increases and other things to show that we'll be able to substantiate and self-fund the IEPA loan once we would pursue that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for reminding everybody about what we've done to obviously upgrade our water meters and, like you said, to reduce the loss of water. Obviously, I'm sure that was made a big difference. And then, like you said, with the city of Chicago yearly raising their rates, obviously caused a lot of, things that weren't passed on. Any other comments on anything, gentlemen? About the funds, about anything, about the report by Jason? I think it was very well done. Was there any other comments?
No, thank you, Jason. Yeah.
Yeah, none for,
report. Thank you.
yeah. Thank you,
So
Jason.
Director Hicks, you got no other comments, nothing you want to make a comment about the budget, the finance reports at all?
Not at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay, Director, Budget Office Director, Mr. Hood, any comments
No,
before
nothing
you?
at this time.
So we're all good? All right,
Yep.
can I, at this time, and I know Clerk McGreer, for public
Yeah, I have
comment,
no comment from the public. I guess we've answered all questions. I do think the mayor may want to make a comment or two, though.
Mayor Thompson, do you want to say anything, or do you want to wait until after the public comments?
I don't know, are there public comments? I'd rather wait till after the public have the opportunity to address the finance committee. Mr. Clerk, are there any public comments?
Madam President, at this time, we have received none.
Okay, thank you. So
Okay,
I'll just jump right into it so that we don't let this go on any longer. Just a few reminders. I just want to first thank the community for those that's participated on tonight's finance committee meeting. We believe in being transparent when we have these types of discussions.
Excuse me, Mayor,
Mayor?
can you turn up your volume? It's real hard to hear you.
Yeah, I was
Oh.
just gonna say that. Did you catch it too, trustee Tierney? It's
Yeah.
kind of low. Yeah,
Okay.
Madam Mayor, so I'm gonna say this, item number 3, I'm gonna close the public comment. Okay, is that okay with you? We'll close public comment, and then we'll let Mayor Thompson now, she can go ahead and add her
Okay,
comments. Is that okay? We'll do it that way. Madam Mayor, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
It's still kind of
real
low.
low. Yeah,
Okay, well, can you hear me now? Because I got it up as loud as I can have it.
yeah.
Still low.
We're gonna have to,
I don't know
We'll
if.
strain, but we can hear you.
Okay, well, anyway, I'm gonna make my comments because you all are saying you can't hear me, and I don't know if the public can hear me or not. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you, Jason, for taking some time out to come and do the presentation for the 2019 fiscal. Also, a reminder to the community that we have COVID testing this Saturday at Village Hall from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then on next Saturday, Clerk Kevin DeGreer is doing a voter registration drive here at Village Hall between 12 and 2 p.m. So if you can come, if you're new and you want to get registered to vote, come out and get registered to vote with Clerk Kevin DeGreer. And I just want to say that we believe in being transparent in everything that we do in the Village of Broadview. So thank you, everyone, and good night.
Thank you, Madam
Good
Mayor.
night.
Before we adjourn, I do have to make a comment. Trustee Tierney, based on the reports tonight from Jason, from Baker Tilly, as well as from Director Hicks and Director Hood, I would like to place this on the agenda for our next board meeting. Trustee Tierney, your comments?
I would agree with you. Make a motion that we put it on the agenda for next Monday's board meeting. And I believe that our next one on Monday.
Is Clerk McGreer would,
Oh, the
is that?
meeting is on Tuesday because Monday is a holiday.
Yeah, the holiday.
It's
So
Tuesday.
So that would be
Clerk
what,
McGreer,
the
is Clerk McGreer still on? Clerk, can you give us the date? So I just want to be real clear on that, I'm gonna place this on the agenda for our next board meeting, and the date is, please?
the
That
16th,
would
I
be
believe.
Tuesday, February 16th, 7:30 p.m.
Okay, so trustee Tierney, I have your support then, and I can let our clerk go ahead and add
Yes.
just to the
do we
agenda
have
for
to-
Tuesday. Okay, so we know it's going to be Tuesday, February 16th at our regular board meeting, obviously. So Clerk McGreer can add this. So the rest of the
Yes.
trustees can then, okay, I just want to make sure we're all good about that. Madam Mayor, are you fine with that as well?
I am.
Okay, Director Hicks? Are we good for that?
I'm fine with
So
it.
in case there's any additional questions by our fellow trustees? Can you hear me? And Director Hood?
Yes, I'm good
Director
with it.
Hood and Director Hicks, I'm gonna make I want to make the recommendation to place this on the agenda for our next board meeting on Tuesday, February 16th. I just want to make sure you guys are okay with that.
Yes, first,
Yes,
Okay. All right, do we need Jason from Baker Tilly to be on, just in case there's any questions from our trustees, our fellow trustees?
No, I mean, I think, this was the forum to have those detailed questions. So, if any other questions come up, myself or Director Hood will be able to answer those questions.
Okay. Madam Mayor, you okay with that too? That Director Hood and Hicks would be available? And Jason doesn't have to be present from Baker Tilly for that night?
That's why we had a finance committee meeting to talk about the audit so that we don't have to waste his time. And I don't even know if he's available on Tuesday. So if they want to get the information, they can review the video. We recorded it. So they can review it and get the information. They will get a copy of the 2019 fiscal audit for them to review. And if they have any questions at the regular board meeting that's going to be on Tuesday, they can ask that of Director Hicks or Budget Officer Hu.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Jason, obviously you heard, thank you so much for doing that very detailed report, giving us, everything about our fiscal year, this past year. And obviously you heard that Director Hicks and Director Hood would be available for questions from our fellow trustees. Yes, and because this is a live finance meeting. Okay? So we're all good. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the budget meeting.
Thank you. I make the second. All in favor? Trustee Tierney? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Meeting is adjourned. I want to thank everyone. It was an awesome meeting. See you guys soon. Have a good night. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hawkins.